not on your plant list, but since we're going right by it, we'll talk about it. Again, this is a very, very common landscape plant. It's called Morus alba. Alba means white. Morus, Moraceae family. Got a tag here. And very, very common landscape plant. I find that they're too common. The straight species Morus alba is introduced, and it is the food of the silkworm, Bombyx mori, which is in Asia.
Silkworms?
Silkworms.
Yeah, I feed those to my bearded dragon.
Where do you get them?
I get them at the pet shop right over
Can you
there.
buy? I used to raise millions of them in Thailand. That was my project, was actually growing millions of cuttings of the straight species. We cultivated different cultivars and stuff, and that was the project I was working on. And we were raising millions of silkworm for silk. Now this one is an ornamental form, Pendula. It's grafted. Let's go back to the straight species because it is a problem here, because we are actually doing a research project with the Royal Botanic Gardens, or I am, on their endangered species, Morus rubra. And the problem with Morus rubra is it hybridizes with Morus alba. So you get these super hybrids. And so they've had to do DNA testing and then go back and find out which ones have pure DNA, because you can't tell them apart when they hybridize. And then we've had to develop, or we're trying to develop, how to propagate them. This we can know how to propagate. Morus rubra, no one in the world knows how to propagate, so we're trying to figure it out, or I'm trying to figure it out.
And it doesn't set seed very often?
Well, the problem is, if it sets seed, who pollinated the seed? One of these guys, or one? So again, you take a chance on the seed, raise a seedling, and then you have to get DNA testing on the seedling to see who the parent was, right?
So if you can't tell them apart, why is one white and one red? Do they look?
Yeah, you can.
No?
They're very, very difficult to tell apart. Yeah. And this is even more confusing, because if you look at this, I can pick off 3 leaves here, and all the leaves will be different. There's one leaf, right, no lobe. Here's a leaf with some lobes. And
it's like snowflakes.
Here's a leaf that is completely different than those.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right? So it can be really quite confusing. But Morus alba pendula is a very, very common landscape plant, because people like this pendulous form.
Pendula is the ornamental form, this one?
Pendula means weeping, pendulous. Morus alba does produce fruit, and there are some of the weeping ones that do produce fruit. The straight species do, and the reason it's an invasive species is it's an opportunistic species, and that's what makes a weed, really. It can grow anywhere. But secondly, it produces fruit which birds like, and I like them too. They're like blackberries. You can make a great pie out of mulberry pie and stuff. But the birds eat them, and then they go off somewhere and poop. And then seedlings grow. So if you look at some of our clumps of cedar, Thuya occidentalis, along the edges of the college here, and I think the duty students this weekend are actually removing them, there are Morus rubra trees growing out of the clumps of cedar, because the birds have gone into the evergreen to kind of hide, get out of the weather like today. They've eaten the fruit, they've pooped it out, the seeds have germinated, and away we go. We've got a plant growing there that should be in there. The straight species, the ornamental form can be somewhat attractive when it gets older. I like it when it can form a huge head on it, and it can be really quite interesting. What I don't like people doing is they go and shear them all off here. That's hideous. That should be illegal. Yeah, it's horrible. I don't know why people think that's attractive. Do you have that at your house? You don't have that at your house, do you? Oh, okay. If you need to prune them, you just thin them out a bit. And as the plant ages, you get other limbs coming off that might form major limbs. And you prune out some of this stuff, and you can, see the inside form, so you can have an interesting plant. But again, very, very, very common plant.